everybody, what's going on? This is another edition of a riveting episode of the Pages Speak. Come on, somebody.
Hello,
What up, though?
everyone.
Yeah.
We're going to ask that as you come on tonight that you share. As we go throughout this show, we're asking that you would like, comment, and share.
Come on. Subscribe.
Also,
Subscribe too. Come on.
Yes.
That's something that we need to be doing. More subscriptions, more subscribing. Come on, join in to the Pages Speak.
Yes, and then also join in on the conversation.
Yeah.
We're going to be having some interesting conversations over these next few weeks. Some
Ooh.
things that a lot of people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. But you got to understand, we ain't never scared.
What for?
No, why would we?
Why would we?
We need to be scared.
I ain't scared of
Not scared. So tonight we have a very interesting good evening,
What's
Mr.
up,
Taylor.
my brother?
Hello, Miss Bridget. Beautiful. Good evening. So tonight, and on tonight's show, this is going to be an interesting conversation. And we really want to integrate the conversation.
Come on, join on in.
Everybody. So if you have some friends, no matter what your race, color, creed, nationality, whatever it may be, it does not matter. Invite them, share them, tag them, bring them into this conversation because this is a conversation we need to have. Mm-hmm. We oftentimes say that you got to be real with stuff to deal with stuff. And we can't paint over things and act like it's not what it really is. Mm-hmm. We really need to take things head on, deal with them in an honest manner, and then grow. Let's always be in a position where we grow, where we're getting better, where we're getting stronger in the truth and in the things that are right. Yeah. So tonight. Okay, again, share y'all.
Subscribe y'all.
Share y'all and subscribe. Okay, so tonight. We're going to be talking about was Malcom X right in regards to integration. Now, many times we have the discussion and people believe that Malcolm X didn't want to integrate and Martin Luther King wanted to integrate. But in actuality, they had a very interesting relationship. And really all that they ever wanted was equality. Yeah. They wanted equality. And so we want to look at some of the things that Malcolm X actually said. And we want to analyze and see if what he was saying was actually true. If it was true, or if it was skewed, if it was only for one way, and if it's still holding true even to this day. So tonight we have some wonderful guests. Also, we know that this is like a weighty conversation. So we're going to carry it on for a couple of weeks. So we're going to, part one is tonight, and then part two will be next week. So, you all can get all the meat in there and make all the comments you want to make. And, let's just carry it on and just have an awesome time. So tonight we have two wonderful guests. One of our guests you are quite familiar with because we've had her on here before because she's so very dynamic. Her name is Jessica Robbins. Jessica is just she's a wonderful person. I just love her to pieces. She is a musical genius. She's just a flat-out genius. And she's wonderful. And she's so sweet. She's such a sweetheart. She's militant, though, but she's so sweet.
Don't let the sweetness
and she's also extremely powerful. So don't even play. Anyway,
smooth taste.
Yeah, don't play. But she's full of all kinds of wisdom and wit. Hilarious. Anyway, Jessica Robbins, you got anything to say?
Hey, I'm just happy to be here. I'm excited about this topic. It's something a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it needs to be discussed so that we can continue to move forward as a society.
Come on, man.
That's how I feel.
Society needs this.
Also, we have an awesome treat with this wonderful young lady that I met quite a few years ago through my daughter-in-law. Her name is Shannon O'Brien. Hello, Miss Shannon.
Hello. It is so good to be here tonight. I consider it a deep honor to be invited into this space to talk about a topic that impacts all of us. So I'm excited.
Impact.
Yay.
And that's what we're talking about, impact tonight. This is going to be impactful. Come on.
Yes.
Let's go. Boom.
Yes. Okay, so many people have a misconception that Malcolm X was a raging racist who hated white people. But I don't believe that's true. I don't think he hated anyone. I just think that he hated the way that black people were treated. and he had the knack of speaking the truth as it pertained to him in a way that just did not sugarcoat anything at all. So there are quite a few things that he said, and it's a few things that we know we really want to, bring up and we want to delve into, because the question is, was Malcolm X actually correct about some of the things he said in regards to integration? So one of the things I want to bring up that he actually said that I think is very important is one of the statements that he said.
That's the way you laugh.
What?
That laugh. Like,
well,
it's like it was mischievous. There was something going on behind that laugh.
Yeah, what?
I'm scared of this topic.
What? Why?
Go ahead, read.
Why is he scared?
Ready, read.
Why are you scared though?
No, I ain't scared.
We ain't never scared. We ain't never scared.
But that laugh was funny.
Okay. One of the statements that he said is, when you are equal with another person, the problem of integration doesn't even arise. And so when I thought about this statement, if everybody thinks of everybody else as equal with them, would there be integration? Would there be a need for integration or to force people to come together if everybody respected and honored one another simply as human beings? So what do you think about that statement?
Well, when I think about that at first, I like examples because it just helps me to be able to see what's going on. Mm-hmm. So if everybody were equal, if the schools in this neighborhood were the same as the schools in that neighborhood, if the grocery stores in this neighborhood had the same quality food as the grocery stores in that neighborhood, if the hospitals were the same quality in this neighborhood and that neighborhood, I don't think that there would be a lot of conversation about, oh, well, you can't come over here, or, oh, stay over there, because we have the resources in the different communities. And so I think with that statement, Malcolm X might have been onto something, because if things are equal, it's really not an issue, coming over here or coming over there, because if I have mine, you have yours, and it's all good, it's plentiful, it's bountiful. I don't think anybody would have an issue with me coming over somewhere else and getting something just because it's you could go anywhere and get it. But when there's a scarcity of it in this neighborhood only, and maybe in that neighborhood they don't have it, and I know I'm saying this and that, but please hear privileged and not privileged, and if you want to go even further, you can please hear white and black, or white and another minority. As long as the minority areas don't have these things, it's like, no, keep yourself over there. Don't come over here trying to take ours or trying to mess up what we have. I'm sorry.
Don't come over here trying to take ours or mess up what we have. Do you think that that's a mindset in other communities, that if other races, specifically black race, comes over, black people, because like I said, I really don't believe in this whole race thing. It's totally invented. But if people with more melanin come over into a particular place, that it decreases the value, or it's going to tear it up. Do you think that argument has any validity?
Well, at first you started asking, do people have that mindset? And I just keep thinking of the quote, there goes the neighborhood. And in case anyone listening is unfamiliar, that's what is said to be said when a melanated person comes into an area that does not have that much melanin. Is there something to that? There are people of every color that mess stuff up. There are people of every color that knows how to take care of stuff. So, I mean, sure, you can find instances of melanated people tearing stuff up. You can find instances of white people tearing stuff up. It's just, it depends. And it's a generalization that should not be spread over a whole people group.
Right.
Okay. What about you, Shannon? Have you ever heard that statement, there goes me?
Yes, I have. I definitely agree that it is a mindset. If we, like Jessica said, she's kind but militaristic. I love it. She's straight to the point. If two people have the same things, then there's not going to be a big deal, you know. So Malcolm X was big on, you know, let's be separate, but let's have the same stuff. Let's have control over our resources. Um, a lot of these questions of integration have boiled down to control. Who's in control over the resources? If you have a minority being integrated into white society, it's still white society that has control. It's still the minority that has to adapt to the white society to make white people feel comfortable. Yep. And as soon as white people start feeling uncomfortable, that's when things go south.
Okay, so why do you think there's so much discomfort?
I think the mentality that a lot of white people have is that resources are limited. There's only so many pieces of the pie. And if there's more equality, then me and mine will have less of the pie.
Wow. So would you say that that's rooted in fear?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So a lot of the things is rooted in fear, but is it a viable fear? I mean, is it a realistic fear?
No.
Yeah.
No. A lot of it has to do with false assumptions about, you know, people taking more than what's theirs, and it comes down to fear and insecurity, an unknown, a fear of the unknown. I will say majority of white people don't have an authentic relationship with a Black person. They might say, oh, I have Black coworkers, we're cool, we eat lunch together. Oh, I have a Black friend, you know. But, you know, how is their trust, is their authenticity in that relationship enough to where the white person can see their own racism in that relationship?
And I think that's actually what I think we've been dealing with a lot of as of lately. Whereas people are pointing out where certain things are racist, where there are assumptions that are made, a lot of stereotypes that are believed, a lot of fears that are acted upon. Because even when and an absolute lack of empathy. Even when you see, again, even these killings, and I wasn't even going to go there, but a lot of the killings of Black people, you know, they pull a trigger quick because of their fear. They felt threatened. Whereas if a person looked like them, they didn't feel as threatened. And so there's a fear that has been perpetuated that causes them to behave in a different way. Or it's like flight. There's a fight or flight kind of instinct, but whenever fear is introduced. So with that saying, with the whole integration that was being spoken about in the 60s, when there still was the presence of fear, then you were going to have again fight or flight. So you had a lot when blacks did integrate or come into the neighborhoods, there was what we call white flight. Black people moved in, the white people moved out. And it's because there was a fear, there was a fear that was perpetuated that caused them to think that something bad was going to happen to them because they did not know who Black people really were. They really didn't understand the heart of Black people to recognize that, you know, we're really not different. We're all human beings and we all desire the same things. Even when it goes even to the point of, and I'm going to take a shift and then we're going to come back. There was a Susa Street movement where there was a very, very mighty move of God. And before William Seymour even had really established his church, um, you know, there was already segregation to whereas he couldn't enter into the classroom because he was Black and everybody in the classroom was white. So he had to sit on the floor outside the classroom. Well, he was infilled with Holy Spirit. God moved mightily upon him, and there were many, many miracles being done. And his church was integrated. It was every nationality. It was men. It was women. It was Jewish people. All of them because they were seeing the movement of God. And so then I want to say it was Parham came and he believed, since he was the one that was initially teaching about the gifts of the Holy Spirit, that he was supposed to come in and he was going to be the head of the church because he was a white man. And a Black man should not be over all these white people. And so when William Seymour would not give him control of the church, he went to the media and he inflamed the people that their white women were falling into the hands of these big black bucks, and they were being touched, and they were being caught, and they were just, these women were going to be fondled and raped by all these big black bucks. And then the white people started converging to try to break it up, and then it was just a great big mess. And so what he used in order to bring a destruction to a move of God was fear, lies, and a sense of superiority, that because he was a white male, that he was supposed to be in control of the entire movement. And so we see that in the church. We see it quite prevalent in the church. If people want to wonder why the Pages Speak is talking about this, now we're getting around to what we're talking about. So we see it quite prevalent in the church, whereas it's not odd to see black people in a church that's led by a white male, but you won't see the same kind of dynamic as far as an entire white church being led by a black male. Yeah, because we still have that lack of really believing that we are all equal, that we're all equal in the eyesight of God, that no one is superior to another, and that if people saw one another as equal to another person, the issue of integration would never arise. So this quote by Malcolm X that we're saying, was he right about integration? This quote, when you're equal to another, the problem of integration doesn't arise. Is that true?
That's true. You ain't got nothing to talk about if it's already in existence. What is it to talk about if everything is all shared across the table? And I got it here, you got it there, everything is equal. We don't have this conversation. We wouldn't even have it.
Yeah, I agree. That's true.
It's just honest. And when you have, if you're trying to preserve yourself, and there's way more, because that's the lie. It's way more resources that's more than what you say it is. So it's kind of like I'm gonna hold on, because this is the problem that I have with mindset. We all were trying. It's sometimes in that particular culture, it's a thing about trying to be number one all the time.
Yeah, control.
Always trying to be on top. When we are all equal, we all on top. You know what I'm saying? And that's my thing with, and most of the time when I experience people, it's always trying to be the first, or it's always trying to be the one, or it's always, and don't have any kind of way of being that. We're going to keep you where you are. You can never ever rise to another level. You can. We just want you to stay right there in your little corner and be in that corner. I don't care about what's going on over there, as long as it doesn't happen over here, as long as it doesn't mingle into my society, and which we all are a great big society in America. But you want to have a separate society. But I agree with that. Why would I want to be a part of something that abuses me, that tears me down, that doesn't want me to get ahead, that doesn't want me to be in the conversation, don't want me to even really articulate or get into a good place or a good space?
So we can say that in that particular statement, he was right.
He was on it.
All right. Have another statement here. He said, it has been 9 years, and this is when he said it, so this must have been, this is back in the 60s, so that's another 40. So this is 60 years ago, at least 60 years ago. It's been 9 years since the Supreme Court, when was the Supreme Court decision? I gotta look it up. When the Supreme Court decision outlawing segregated schools. Yet, less than 10% of the Negro students in the South are in integrated schools. That isn't integration, that's tokenism. So right now, when you look at integration, only 14%, since the Supreme Court decision, only 14% of schools have actually been integrated. So we were having a discussion like right before with our producer, and she was like, she went to a school and one time it was all black, and then she went to another school and it was all white, but she did not experience a full integration of schools. right now, when we look at many cities, because of the flight, you look at many cities, again, it's still not integrated. We do have quite a few tokens here and there, but there is no real integration. So, what do you all think about that?
Go ahead, Shannon. You hit that one.
All right. Where to start? Yeah. Forced integration will never work. I'll just say that. Forced integration will never work because it's a heart issue.
Yeah.
The moment studies have found this in peace and conflict studies, that the moment you look at another person and you go from compassion to contempt or disregard is the moment that you stop seeing the humanity in that person.
Oh, that's good.
So as soon as you stop seeing the humanity in another person, you go from compassion to disregard. And so I see that in a lot of the integration efforts. We don't see people, we see their color, we see their socioeconomic status, and therefore it's harder to empathize and sympathize with them. So forced integration will never work.
It's interesting that you were saying empathy. Empathy is really just putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Mm-hmm. And empathy is really a requirement in order for you to have compassion and actually move in order to help or assist someone to get better. You have to have empathy. So I see empathy, and like I said, we see examples even in the news where there would be a Caucasian young man who just shot up a whole movie theater and they take him to get Burger King. And then you have an African American kid who they won't even allow to use the bathroom. And so there's no empathy. It's like they're almost like, again, it goes back to the lack of equality, the thinking of this is not even of the same level. Like, honestly, I thought that this person is not like me. And if you cannot put yourself in another person's shoes, you can never treat them the way you want to be treated. You'll never be able to follow even the basic tenets of God. Treat your neighbor as you want to be treated. You can't do that because you cannot fathom that person as being just like you. It's like this person isn't like me. I like my dog more. I would do for my dog before I do for this person.
Oh gosh, that's so real.
Well, okay. So anyway, talk about it, ladies.
Okay, let me jump in for a second.
So,
you said something so good. You were talking about how it's a heart issue. Mm-hmm. And so they wrote it in the laws, okay, integration. Let's integrate the schools. And so when I think about the law, I think about, okay, 10 Commandments, the laws of God. He says, thou shalt not kill. Don't murder. Don't do that. That's wrong. Mm-hmm. And then we get into the New Testament and Jesus goes on and says something like, even if you have hatred towards your brother, that still counts as killing him. Mm-hmm. You didn't pick up a knife, wasn't no bloodshed. He's still up walking around, but you're still breaking that. Mm-hmm. And so he goes on to say, the sum of the law is love. But you can't really legislate hearts. Like the legislators can't say your heart has to do this and your heart has to do that. So they write in the books, let's integrate the schools, let's get everybody together. But if people's hearts is somewhere else, mm-hmm. you can still not be integrated. Like there's always going to be a way to get away with it. You brought up something, and I don't even want to really touch on this, but just the way I think you talked about someone if a white person shoots up a movie theater, what if a white person shoots up a school? And my heart goes out to Oxford. 1,000%. That was an awful thing that happened. I know people who are in that community and have family members that went there. That was absolutely awful. How many times do we have shootings in Black schools and it doesn't even make the news? How many times do we have threats at Black schools and they're just like, you know what, we're going to have school anyway? let me say this. My views and opinions do not reflect any entities in which I may be a part of outside of LLC. Got to put that out there. But it's very different even within the school systems now. If there's a gun threat, yeah, all right, well, we're still going to be in school, and while we're going through what we're doing, we'll check it out. It's not equal at all.
But you got a false sense of a system that is saying one thing and doing another. So the system is designed to protect certain said individuals. And when you're dealing with a system, the system is only as good as its word. So if I put something out there that's saying I want to, we are all equal, but then on the whole nother level, the system is being played and already structured that even if I put that out there, it's a false narrative happening. And I've never even seen equal if I go into a school and there's still a spirit of racism that's still existing within the system, and the system backs up that, which takes away from what is originally supposed to be the original intent for us to all be equal and to be able to integrate. That's a problem. So the system has to be destroyed. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here's another quote from Malcolm X. He says, "You Negroes are not willing to admit it yet, but integration will not work. Why? It is against the white man's nature to integrate you into his house." So I was reminded, even when I saw that quote, I was looking at the movie, was it One Night in Miami? And um, Jim Brown had gone to one of his, a guy who was a fan of his. It was one of his sponsors. And the guy comes out the house and he's like, "Oh man, it's Jim Brown. You know, I love seeing you play. You're awesome. What you're doing for us is great. We just love you." And he's going and he goes, "You want some lemonade?" And he says, "Sure." So he gets ready to go in the house and Jim Brown goes to walk on him. He's like, "Oh, no, I don't like let none of y'all in my house. You can stay out here on the porch, but you can't come into my house." It's like I said, you let your dog in your house, but you wouldn't let a black man in the house. You know, if you know, and so it's like he says it's against the nature, and I don't know if it's against the nature as much as it's against what many people have been programmed with the fear and the need for the control. Because at one point in time, back when slavery was first abolished, there was an integration. And in some states, there were black legislatures and, things were moving towards that. But then they stirred up fear. And the fear they always, the thing they always stirred up is that you black boys are going to rape our white women. It just, that always was the fear. This black man going to come and rape our white women. You got to keep them separate. Whatever that fear was founded on, I have absolutely no idea. And if they were integrated, what is that? And even right now, it's basis of fear. Whereas if there's integration or if there's intermarriages, that our race will be wiped out. It won't be anymore. We got to preserve our race. We're gonna be again fear, control, and it's a false narrative. What does they say? Fear, false evidence appearing real. And when they're moving upon that, and then many of the things that we are currently suffering with are because of that. So is it against the white man's nature to integrate you into his house? I don't think so. And the reason why I don't necessarily agree with that, I know a lot of white people who will welcome me into their home, who will prepare a meal for me. So is that them going against their nature? Is that actually them listening to their true God nature and seeing me as equal to them with God? And I think it's against their true nature to hold on to this fear narrative, because God didn't give us a spirit of fear. So if God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, then fear is not the white man's nature. It's what he's been programmed to do. Well, that's just me. So I disagree with that particular statement, but I'm throwing it out there to
y'all. Not in his nature.
To integrate you into his house.
I don't know if I would go as far as to say not into his nature, not in his nature. Maybe because okay, let's think about at Malcolm X's time. Okay, so a lot has changed now from there. A lot has not changed, but a lot has changed. And so in his time, I don't think he's talking about the white people that would let you into their home and cook the meal, because I'm not gonna say they did not exist, because there were many allies at that time. Yeah. But if I'm not mistaken, in that time you didn't want to be an N-word lover, because even as a white person you would be ostracized from your family and the white community. And so, and I can't speculate what was in his mind when he was saying nature, but he could have been speaking to the programming of the white person in America at that time. And so I'm not going to go as far as to say he was wrong in that one, but I might need some more clarification in what he's saying because of that. And I'm gonna leave that one at that.
All right. So is it in my nature? No, I'm just joking.
Annie, can I come over to your house? Is it okay? Can I come inside?
Oh, you can come anytime, girl. I'll even let you use the toilet.
Wow.
I can use the inside
toilet. Yeah. I do believe that it's the programming. Mm-hmm. If you take two toddlers, one black, one white, put them in a room with toys, they will play together all day long. Yeah. Share their toys with each other. It does come down to programming. And I will have my little, I guess, what is that called? I don't know, my little points that I need to say that none of my opinions either reflect my employers or any organizations I'm affiliated with. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, programming. So every interaction we have with somebody who is different than us marks us either positively or negatively. And for a lot of white people, the media is a very strong influencer on how they perceive the Black community.
Yes.
So I grew up outside of Detroit in a little town of northern Malcom County, and the only experience that most of us had was through the news of Detroit, which is predominantly Black city, and as the news would portray it, crime-ridden. So for a lot of white people, that's their only perception of Black people. They're down there in Detroit, they're just violent, and we're going to stay away. They can stay down there, we're going to stay up here. I remember the first time I went to the DIA when I was like, I don't know, a preteen or something. I was scared. I had never really been to Detroit before, and all you see is these news clips. But, you know, it was fine. And now that I'm older and I've been in the city for, I don't know, 10 years, I'm like, shoot, DIA was the safest part to be in Detroit. And I was scared. But every interaction after that with the Black person that was positive reprogrammed my mind. And it's programming. It does boil down to it. And it's impossible. I will say this, it's impossible for a white person to grow up in America and not be racist. Because of all of the biases that we're indoctrinated with growing up, it's impossible. And it takes, I'll probably still be undoing this until I die.
Wow. Wow, Shannon. Wow, that just made me so sad.
That was a heavy bomb. That was like a bomb.
That just made me so sad. But, you know, the truth of the matter is, because of the history, because of the media, because of the stereotypes, because of the lies, because of the programming, it has instilled fear. It has instilled a false sense of superiority, all the way to the white Jesus. With the, you know, it's just all this false narrative. And, you know, that just to know that you will be constantly undoing that. But the beauty of it is that you recognize it and you're willing to do that work. Whereas many of even our Christian brothers and sisters, will not be that honest. And they'll continue to say, I'm not racist and I don't have a racist bone in my body. But in actuality, if you're not real with it, you'll never deal with it. And if you never deal with it, you remain in that place. Listen, we are beyond time for this week. So we're going to have to pick this up for next week. Yeah. So tune in next Thursday at 9 p.m. We are continuing this conversation about was Malcolm X right about integration. Again, the pages speak every Thursday at 9 p.m. We will be right here. And next week, again, we're going to go to part 2 with, again, our wonderful Jessica Robbins and our awesome Shannon O'Brien. Oh, my God. And so we're just so excited and so share this, because we have to have honest conversation. The word of God, again, I'm going into the truth will make you free. But if you're not willing to face the truth, if you're not willing to even speak the truth about your situation and what you know and your programming and things that you're holding on to, your programming, your prejudices, whatever it may be, if you're unable to speak the truth and really face it, then you'll never be free from the hatred, from the fear, from the racism, from the dishonesty, from the segregation, and neither will the body of Christ be able to be whole because we'll still be walking in those lies. But we will deal with more of this next week. And until then, I'm Stephanie Page and
I'm John Nate.
This is that's Jessica and that's Shannon. And we will see you all again next week, 9 p.m., same place, same time. Until then, bye-bye.